like the popularity of Justin Fields and the fan mania for him, like you said, has gone to an all new high this year for sure.
Are we learning more about how the running back workload is going to be distributed?
It's a great question today, Dan, especially because I've been saying all along that I think Khalil Herbert is going to still get more carries. Today was the first day that I doubted myself on that because Dante Foreman seemed like the much bigger part of working with the ones. Like he was used a lot in terms of running, and he was thrown to a lot too, was Dante Foreman. And in general, the biggest emphasis or one of the themes that I have seen, although Justin Fields has gone deep, and when he goes deep, we tell you all about those plays, and it seems like that's what's going on. But what's going on out here, guys, is a big time emphasis on these short, sure, slam dunk, gimme types of plays that they didn't get last year. And excuse me, Dante Foreman in particular today was a huge part of it. Now, we're always told not to read into things in terms of camp. And Matt Eberflus did not speak today. He's every other day, so we'll talk tomorrow. So I probably will bring this up with him tomorrow. But it sure felt like today was, Dante Foreman's chance, and maybe slowly but surely taking this thing over because maybe they trust him more. We all know that Khalil Herbert's been asked about the blocking. He said that's what he obsessively worked on in this offseason, will continue to work on in training camp. But I saw a team that seemed to give the nod to Dante Foreman today.
Have you had a chance to talk to the running backs? I mean, I guess most of them are probably pretty happy. But about like what's happening with running backs, has there been any opinion shared on that?
Well, Khalil Herbert was asked about it, and he was asked, what does he think about the running backs sort of coming together and filing their complaint in terms of the money, and he said, of course, he said, no, I was not invited to that call, and he didn't have a strong opinion on it. Now, one of the things that we were surmising in the media room in regards to Khalil Herbert, he's a late round pick, so he's part of the problem. You know what I mean? Like you could find a running back in the 5th or 6th round, and he can be the guy that is your starting running back, as he shared the ball with David Montgomery last year. So Khalil Herbert probably looks at himself, like I'm one of those guys that makes the example for the rest of the NFL that you could just kind of put anybody in there. So I do wonder if he was I don't know this for sure, I'm just inferring from what he didn't say, that he didn't have a lot of opinion on it, that he's one of those guys that is lucky to be in the position that he is in. We have not talked to Dante Foreman. We have not talked to Roschon Johnson yet. So we'll probably eventually ask those guys about that too.
I was talking with Dan about this in our pre-show meeting, Grote, that I don't know if I've ever seen a team coming off a season like the Bears have had that have less questions going into the next training camp as this version of the Bears do. It's like, oh, well, who might be the opposite corner? Like, that's a question.
Who's the full-time punt returner, especially now if Pettis hurt?
And then that's kind of it, which scares me, quite honestly, that they feel like they've figured out all of these things.
Yeah, I don't think that they figured these things out. And by the way, today we did see Velus Jones Jr. returning punts again. Tyler Scott, the rookie, was out there too, getting some chances and looked good with his speed. Speaking of Tyler Scott, I have a little bit of audio from the Bears rookie wide receiver out of Cincinnati, and he admits that he has a lot to learn.
How much of an adjustment is it for you in an offense that has a lot of alignments, a lot of motions, a lot of shifts, and coming from what you came from in Cincinnati, how much more volume is that for you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot. Especially Cincinnati, remember we're kind of like a base, more of an offense, not too much shifting or motioning. We're more hand signals as well, from the sideline. Here it's all communications from the quarterback. You're hearing it in the huddle, so you're trying to process it instead of just kind of looking toward the sideline. And then definitely a lot more motioning. From one spot to another, those type of things. So it's definitely a lot more for sure. But that just means you got to dial in. The plus side of that, I think, is just kind of with the variety of different shifts and motions and even routes. and adjustments, it kind of keeps the DBs on their toes. It gives you kind of more to look at, gives you more space to mirror things up, make one route look like another, just kind of gives you a variety of tools to use. So it's definitely been a lot there, but I just think it gives you a step ahead too once you get it down.
It's funny in terms of all those shifts and motions that he's talking about. He mentioned how when he first went up against Jalen Johnson, that as he put it, as Tyler Scott put it, Jalen Johnson essentially ran the route for him, as in he knew the wiggle and the ways of the play, and Tyler Scott realized that he has to be a little bit more subtle in his route running too. So he's been having some nice little battles with Jalen Johnson out here when he gets the opportunities, and when it's simple, Tyler Scott has been good.
And that's before they put the pads on and he punches him in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, exactly,
right?
Exactly.
I do appreciate him being honest about, that's a huge, what he said there is super important. That difference between a college offense where they've got the cards up and guys are like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do, versus
then it's
understanding.
Then it's formation, look back, then they come set, they look back, and it's like, oh, the decoy card is off, and now this is actually what we're doing. Right.
Versus knowing what the play and what your responsibility is off of the play call itself means that you have to pay more attention in film study. It means that you have to know all that stuff. Honestly, here's the weird thing. I have super high expectations for him because of his speed and what I saw at Cincinnati. I really like that he's been honest about, look, I got a lot that I got to figure out here.
Yeah,
and I think that's smart. That's a smart way to go about it. Try to learn all of this stuff and then put it into practice instead of expecting big things from him immediately.
And he comes across, Lawrence, as very thoughtful, very intelligent. He was great with us. He had the poise in speaking to us of a fifth-year receiver, and maybe that doesn't mean anything, but he does seem to accept that he's got a lot to learn. And I really put this in the for whatever it's worth category, because we did this with Velus Jones Jr. last year, talking about the speed. The speed does stand out.
But you know what? He wasn't. I don't want to say that Velus wasn't honest about it. We saw it play out where he was having a hard time doing what he needed to do, partially because of the way that the offense was run at Tennessee versus what it's run like at a professional level.
Right, and you hope that in the magical year 2 that the light starts to go on. And I will say that they're not just sitting Velus Jones Jr. I mean, I think some people, after last year, during last year, I understand it. We're like, this kid's not even going to be around next year. He's going to be gone. But he's you can't give up on a guy that was drafted that highly, 3rd round, your first offensive player picked last year. Considering also what they told us he was capable of doing, he is still getting a whole lot of opportunities. Let me give you guys a couple of cuts from Cody Whitehair before we get out of here. Cody Whitehair talked about Gervon Dexter, and he talked about Darnell Wright, and he was very insightful about both of them. Let's start with Cody Whitehair, the Bears starting center, talking about the rookie right tackle Darnell Wright.
The thing about him is he's for a big guy, he's got really good feet. And he plays really long. He plays with good extension. We were watching one-on-ones and meetings just a couple days ago, and he's so strong. His strike and the way he moves his feet's really impressed me. So, really looking forward to seeing him in the run game too. A big guy, he can move people off the ball for sure.
That was eye-opening to you guys, as a veteran offensive.
I mean, yeah. Anytime you see a guy that is striking guys in one-on-ones and doing what he's coached, taking. I guess the biggest thing is taking. The individual to a situation like that where it's kind of more of like a team setting where you're, going against the defense. So that's awesome for a young guy to come in and be able to take your individual and what we do in individual and our technique and stuff and translate it like that. We talk about that all the time, and that's what we're striving to do is take our fundamentals that we learn, in our individual drill to team and to one-on-one situations like that to help us get ready for Sunday.
You guys have any fun with him about the conditioning test mishap?
We were really impressed with the way he came back. As a young guy, you're trying to figure out things, OTAs, there's a lot that goes into it, from a kid getting drafted to coming here for rookie minicamp and then staying, and then having these 5 weeks where it's like, here's your freedom. A young guy that's had so much structure throughout college, that you give him 5 weeks off, and it's like, well, what do we do? Well, he really used that opportunity, the 5 weeks, to really get in shape, and transform his body to come in and be ready for training camp, and he did that.
I like that because it didn't seem like, and obviously seeing the expressions and seeing Cody Whitehair's eyes when he was talking about Darnell Wright, it didn't seem like the usual way you talk about a rookie. Usually you say, well, he's got a lot to learn. Offensive line is tough. Trying to get him on the same page. It seemed like he was pretty specific. And like to hear them, veterans on that team, like looking at the tape, watching and be like, oh, wow, there's something there.
All right, but like you say, let's put the pads on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wait, Grote, I got one more question. Have you been able to figure out all of the Bears' secret red zone plays from the far side of the field yet?
Referring to our angle in watching the team? Yeah, no, I have. I've not. I fast and furiously take notes trying to get it.
Okay.
But
all right.
They ripped it out of my notebook.
All right.
Walked in here to do this.
Okay.
So.